Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on Claude Code. Something crazy just happened yesterday. As you know, GPT-5 has now been released, and I actually just went into it and typed what is the best resource to learn about Claude Code. And check this out, it actually recommends this channel as the best way to master Claude Code. I immediately went onto Twitter and I posted about it, and you will never believe what happened. 10 million views, 125,000 likes, 83,000 retweets, and 52,000 comments. That's crazy. Okay, so if you were paying attention, those two things were obviously not true. And then GPT-5 definitely was released, but it doesn't mention me anywhere, and that tweet was also not real. I never come anywhere close of that number of views. But what if I told you that the two videos that you saw was actually created with Claude Code? This is Remotion Studio, and this is the exact animation that you saw in the opening of this video. While this looks like a traditional video editor, everything here was actually coded using Claude Code. All I did for this one was to supply it a single screenshot and then ask it to create this animation for me. And the other thing that we saw up here was this fake ChatGPT chat. You can actually just change this dynamically. So if you look at the top corner here, I call it 5. You can actually fake it and say you're using ChatGPT 6 or ChatGPT 7. And you can actually change the text over here. Something like, who is the best person to speak to about Claude Code? Everything just live updates dynamically. So in today's tutorial, I'll be showing you exactly the prompts and the tools to using Claude Code and Remotion. And everything that you see over here, including the source code, the prompts, are fully available in my Claude Code Builder Pack, which you can get hold in the link below. If you want to start creating videos using Remotion and Claude Code, this is the pack for you. This Claude Code Builder Pack contains all of the resources from my previous videos as well. And yes, this video that you see here was also created using Remotion. And this other one that I did, where I just passed in the URL of my GitHub profile and it created a promo video. And you can see it even has like all my pin repositories, and then it created a heat map of my commit history as well. All right, so without further ado, let's get going with today's tutorial. Okay, so let's get started with how to use Remotion with Claude Code. And I'm just going to run this command that you see right over here and pop it in. All right, so in this case, it's going to ask you whether you can install the following packages, and just click yes. And then this will proceed to install everything that you need to get Remotion running. And now you can see here, you have several different templates that you can actually begin to use Remotion for. And Remotion has lots of flexibility with what you can do, right? It's entirely code-based. You're going to find that you're going to be able to basically make use of existing websites or existing React apps, and you'll be able to create animation using it right off the bat. So for this one, what we're going to do is that we're just going to use the Hello World template. I'm going to call it CC Remotion YouTube, because that's what we'll be demonstrating today. At Tailwind CSS, we can just use yes. In this window, I'm going to say yes. All right, so now it's open it up in cursor for me. I could have easily just gone ahead and done cursor, CC, Remotion, YouTube, and I would have done the same thing. You don't actually need to use cursor. You can just use a plain old terminal or VS Code or any code editor that you like, because ultimately we'll be doing everything via the command line. So I'm just going to switch into this project here. We're not going to be using any from the chat. So once within it, you can just open the terminal, and all you have to do is to npm install. So this will install all of the dependencies that are required to run Remotion as a web server locally on your computer. And you can see that the installation instructions were actually provided over here. npm I, which is npm install, and then you just run npm run dev. So it's exactly the same as you would be doing for a regular React app or a TypeScript app. So that should be very familiar to you. We're just going to let this run for a little bit while longer until the installation completes. Okay, installation is completed now, and all you have to do is type npm run dev, just like you would for any NoteBeans application or website. Yours might show 3000 rather than 3001, and the reason for that is that I have another instance that's running over here. So it's actually like a full-fledged video editor. You can do things like play, and you can see all the animations that are over here. And over here you have two compositions, one's Hello World and one is only logo. So this one's just the logo that's spinning, and you see I can just scrub through it like a regular video editor. And over here, I can scrub through the video that has the text as well. And on the right-hand side, if this is not showing up, you can click on this panel over here. You can actually change things like the title color. So in this case, I'm just going to make it maybe something different, like purple. And you can see that you can actually change things on the fly and immediately get the result. And then finally, you can choose to render things by clicking on the render button here. And then once you're happy with it, you just click render video here. It will actually kick off the process to render this video to file. And once this is done, you can actually just open it up. This will actually be a video file that you can play. And you can see it's just like any animated video that you will see out there, and put this on your website, your social media profile, or anywhere else that you see fit. Okay, so that's a very quick introduction to get Remotion set up and how to run it, and a quick overview of how things are done. So here's the secret sauce, right? Because everything you see in Remotion Studio is actually driven by the code that you see on the left-hand side over here. Given that everything is code-based, if you use any AI that's very good at coding, such as Claude Code or Cursor, you're now going to be able to create really good videos just by utilizing plain English and feeding it into AI. And that's exactly how I ended up creating all of the videos that you saw at the beginning of this tutorial. All right, so just continuing where we left off, after we created the Hello World Remotion project, what we're going to do now is that we're going to use Claude, and I'm just going to use dangerously skip permissions because I don't want to be hindered by accepting permissions for the various file rights and things that are going to occur. You should never do this. You should always make sure that you edit it within your Claude settings file. But for the purpose of this tutorial, there's nothing that touches a production database or anything like that. So I'm just going to do this so that we can demonstrate everything quickly without having to accept permissions left, right, and center. All right, so now that that's done, you're within Claude. What you want to do is that you want to do an init call so that Claude actually studies this entire Remotion project and familiarizes itself with what you can do and generate the CLAUDE.md file. You would have heard this from me many times before and from other AI experts that this is always the first thing that you want to do within any given code base, because this will give Claude sufficient context and understanding of how to utilize the files, what's there, and anything else related to the project that it needs to know about. Now it's completed the CLAUDE.md file, and you can see that it's actually gotten a good overview of what the project is like, what are the existing compositions, and several other things related how to utilize this. Now, this should be sufficient for you to be able to get going. But what I did was I actually passed in the docs for Remotion and several other things that I wanted Claude to be aware about. The reason for that is that it will actually give Claude a little bit more understanding of how best to use Remotion. I've actually got an updated Claude.md file that contains additional context that will help to make Claude Code work better with Remotion and avoid some of the bugs that you might see sometimes, such as some sequence overlapping or having issues with interpolation and timing. I'm just going to copy and paste the contents of this enhanced version and replace the Claude.md file. If you want to get hold of this enhanced Claude.md file, it's also available in the builder pack, which you can get in the link in the description below. Now we're ready to get started. Okay, so the first video that we're going to do is the simplest one, which is the GitHub profile one. All we need to do is just go on to your GitHub profile. You just have to supply a single thing, which is the URL. Here's the prompt that we'll be using today. Based on Claude.md, I wanted to create a promo video based on my GitHub profile, summarizing the key information, pin repositories, and I wanted to dynamically fill the contributions heat map. And as you can see, all we needed to do is just pass in a single URL over here, right? And the reason why I put in Claude.md explicitly here is to make sure that it's picked up the enhanced changes that I made. It should automatically pick it up, but I just wanted to be sure for this run. Okay, so I'm just going to hit enter, and you can see what is it going to do here. First of all, it's actually going to fetch the actual GitHub page. Then after that, it's going to create the new composition so that we have a new video to be able to edit. And then after that, it's going to go and add all of the relevant stats, the heat map, the profile section, and various different things in order to create the final video composition. And like I said, for this very simple video, all I needed to do was to provide a single prompt and a single variable, which was my URL. So you should go ahead and try it on your own GitHub profile or any other web page that you have, and let me know in the comments below how your videos turned out. I'm going to let this run for a little while so that it runs to completion, and then we'll come back and see what the end result looked like. It's now completed this entire GitHub profile promo composition. So let's actually just check it out right now. Let's see. All right, that's my username and profile. It's got the description correct. It's got the followers, tells me how many I'm following, and it shows me all the pin repositories. Yep, these are the actual pin repositories that I have. And then it's showing the contribution activity over the past year. And I don't think this is actually correct. So I actually think that some of the things are not real. For example, there are 1,817 contributions, but then it actually says it's only 690. But let's actually take a look at this within Remotion Studio itself. And the way that we do that is that I'm just going to open a new terminal. So npm run dev, and this should then begin Remotion Studio, which is the video editor that allows you to see all this. is running at 3002. All right. And then we have this GitHub profile promo over here. This is the exact same video that we just saw that was exported out. You can actually scrub through and see all of the different sequences that were created as part of this GitHub profile. And you can see this is actually pretty cool. Let's just look at these repositories here just for a second. Let's see. Unreal MCP, 852 stars and 108 forks. Yep, 852 stars. And then MCP made simple is 14. I put 41 here. And then ADK made simple 43. I could put 60 here. So it seems to have picked certain things that it wants to get right and certain things that it decided to hallucinate about. And I'm sure that if you actually just prompt it, you'll be able to get the numbers working correctly. All right, and then let's just look at the profile stats: 1 through 3 followers and 6 following. And I have 1 through 3 followers and 8 following. So that's actually correct as well. And finally, the contributions over here, 690, 47 days and 12 days. Let's actually just double check that. I'm not actually got streaks. But anyway, what we can do, remember this is Remotion. So I can just fix this number over here by putting 181,000. All right, and the great thing about this, like I said, is that everything is configurable. So if there was something that you didn't really like or increase the number of followers that you have, you can just drag over here, and then you can change the text here so that it represents things that you want. You actually put my right avatar as well. And this is a really good starting point, which you can then just very easily tweak within Remotion Studio. So that's the first video. And you will see that this is different from the one that I showed at the beginning of the video. And it's because I'm actually running this on a fresh project. So there'll be some differences in the final result. Okay, I've shown you how to pass in a URL here. And now I'll show you a different way of creating a video based on a screenshot instead. And for the second composition that I made, this is the one where I actually create a mock animated video of a Twitter post that I made. I changed the numbers to make it look like it was a lot more viral than it actually was. So what I did for this one was actually very simple. I actually went and looked at one of my tweets that I wanted to animate. And then I actually just took a screenshot of the entire thing. And then with that, I actually pasted it into my code base over here. And that's all you need. So rather than passing in an actual URL like we did for the GitHub profile, in this case, I'm going to use a single image to actually create that animated profile. I'm going to use this prompt over here. I'm going to say create a configurable animated mockup. And the reason why configurable is because I actually want to modify some of these numbers and things within the mockup itself, such as swapping out the username or swapping out the image. And once again, based on CLAUDE.md, create a configurable animated mockup of an X Twitter post based on this design over here. I'm going to ask it to ensure that it resembles how this looks like in style. And I also said that make sure that all key elements, such as the avatar, the name, the handle, and these icons over here are all configurable. I said make the body text rendered like a typewriter so that it's animated out. And then I want the numbers over here to count upwards as well. I want this to be against a colorful backdrop fit for social media, like you see people do all the time. And then I want the typing speed to be fast and the count up speed to be fast as well. And this is really important because I find when working with Remotion, you have to make the typing speed fast and the count up speed fast and make sure that the length of the video is long enough to render everything. And I find that this is one of the most important things that I have to prompt Remotion with. Because sometimes the animations ends up being very sluggish and slow, but more importantly, sometimes it doesn't give enough frames in order for everything that is done to be rendered in the video. So you actually get a video that's cut off. So I'm going to kick this off right now, and then we will come back to see how this animated Twitter post will end up looking like. All right, so it says that it's finished the animated mockup. So let's check it out in Remotion Studio. All right, and you can see here it has indeed done the styling according to what the Twitter image would look like. The text comes out dynamically like a typewriter. And then there's actually a screenshot below, which we can swap out. And then you can see that the numbers below do count up. Now, unfortunately, the numbers are actually very low. That's why they don't count up a lot. So let's just change these to large numbers so that we actually have a bit of a nicer count up. All right, so let's just try this again. And in this case, it just starts from some negative amount. It should actually really start from 0. And then you can see the numbers do count up. All right, so slightly different. All right, and you can see there are a couple of bugs here compared to the one that I did from before. There is no gradient background. So this one did have a gradient background. Okay, the gradient background, and the numbers did count up from 0 rather than from negative. But then everything else actually looks right. Everything else is there. So you can actually change your username, all right? And then you can also change the profile URL. So I'm just gonna take this one that I had over here, which is my real Twitter URL. Okay, and one thing I forgot to mention is that when I first ran this, there was actually a bug when it tried to render the image. It's because sometimes Remotion tends to use image URLs that it either hallucinates or don't exist anymore, and that can cause an error. So one thing that you might want to add to your prompt, which I'll update in the file when I distribute it, is to use images from Unsplash, because Unsplash.com actually has a lot of free images that work really, really well for stock images. And so you can see that I'm using an image from Unsplash over here, and I can easily take the actual image from my Twitter post and pop it in here, and it will hot swap out. All right. So I'm not going to spend too much time trying to fix the smaller issues over here. You can easily tell Claude Code to fix the background and fix the count up. The main thing is to show you that you could just provide a single image and the right prompt and pretty much get to 90% of where you want the animated video to look like. All right, you can see it even has this like scaling and fading in effect as well. All right, so now that's that one done. And the next thing I'm going to show you is a slightly more complicated animation where there's actually a transition between different screen states. So now we are done with the Twitter composition. This next one is going to be a little bit trickier. And the reason for that is that if you actually look at this one here, the difficult thing is that it not only has this dynamic text that's running, but there's actually a transition to a totally different screen when you finish submitting the text. And so what I tried to do initially was to take screenshots of the ChatGPT interface. So for example, I basically took a screenshot of this screen over here, typed in my prompt, and then after that, I clicked submit. And I let it go through the usual motions. And this was the result that I got initially when I asked it the question. And so I initially tried taking screenshots of both of these screens and feeding it into Claude Code and telling it to make a Remotion animation that showed this, but the results were not very good. And that's one of the limitations of this. I've actually seen other videos where they actually did manage to get it to the right state with screenshots alone, but then it required quite a bit of prompting to get things to lay out correctly and to display correctly. And sometimes what they saw was that there was also a little bit of randomness. Sometimes it would do really well, and sometimes it wouldn't do it as well. So what I did was that I did something differently. Instead of using the screenshots directly, I actually went to V0 or V0 by Versal. And what I did was that I just prompted it very simply. I attached the two screenshots that I had. And then I just said, clone the UI in the above two screenshots where the first screen is a text input prompt and the second is a chat interface. So here's actually the result that I got. So you can see, right, it says that it would recreate the ChatGPT style interface. And then even just after one try, it actually got it into this state where I was able to type something like, what is the best resource to learn about Claude Code, just as we saw earlier. And then it would do this thinking animation. And then finally, it would then showcase to me the results that we saw. Obviously, this is just a hard-coded response. But now with this, I actually have a much better looking interface that responds correctly. So what I did here was that I actually just went to the code view, and then I just copied this entire page.tsx. I went over back into my editor. I created a chat.tsx file, and then I just popped the entire component right into here. And so now I actually have components that actually look correct. And remember that Remotion works really, really well with React. And so when you have React components just like this, my hope was that it would actually fare a lot better. All right, so let's give this a shot now. I said, based on CLAUDE.md, once again, create a configurable mock screen recording featuring a chat based on the content in this chat.tsx file, which we just saved. And I'm just going to make sure that it exists over here. Great. And then I said it should show the user entering a prompt followed by a chat interface and the AI responding. And I did say make the typing speed fast and streaming response from the AI fast again, and to make sure that the length of the video is long enough to render everything. Like I said, this is quite important to do because oftentimes Remotion tends to make the video length too short. So you end up losing all the animation that it does. So I'm going to give this a try now and launch it, and we'll see what we get at the end of it. So you can see here it's analyzing the chat.tsx interface structure and styling that we've provided, and then it's going to go ahead and create a recording in the video based on the things that we've provided. Okay, and while we're waiting, I wanted to show that the background was missing in our tweet video, and you can see now it's got the background correctly showing this time. So like I said, it's very easy to tweak. Even if there are little errors like that, you shouldn't have to worry. You don't always have to get it right in the first shot, but you want to get at least 90 to 95% of the way there, and then you can spend a little bit of time tweaking it. Okay, so we're going to let this run for a while, and then we'll come back to see the final result. Okay, so this has been completed now. And let's just check it out within Remotion Studio. You can see that the chat screen recording has been added now. And let's click on it and let's just give it a shot here. And you can see, yeah, that's great. It's showing the typing that emerges from there. There's the transition screen plus the 3 dots. And then it basically gives you the result, just like we expect. And yeah, in my screen, I actually just changed the model version here to 5. So you can actually spoof that you actually had access to ChatGPT 5. You can see that this is all working well. You can change the text within here, as we say. So I can say, what's the best recess or cursor or for anything at all. And then you can just replace this over here to things like one. So you can say the best resource is Chong-U at AI-oriented. And it actually has all the things, kind of does look like a real ChatGPT interface. And as you can see, because they are React components, they even have the highlight effects and things like that. Okay, so that's it for today's tutorials. It's a bit different from usual, but it's a fun little one. I think it's a very unique use case of using Claude Code. But I think it actually points towards the direction that Claude Code can actually be used for a lot more than just programming software. And I think this is just one step and just one demonstration of if you have something that is code-driven, like Remotion in this case, you can actually leverage Claude Code to actually automate and build stuff for you without you actually needing to know how to use the software or the package in the first place. I've never used Remotion before, but I'm just looking at the stuff that it's capable of doing, and it looks really, really cool. So I think that this just gives a really good opportunity to explore and demonstrate how Claude Code can be very powerful. I really hope you enjoyed today's video. Don't forget to give it a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so that you're always the first to know whenever new content like this drops. And if you haven't already checked out my other video on how to use sub-agents with Claude Code, you might want to check out this video over here. What I did is that I defined 5 sub-agents, each specialized in one task, such as a front-end engineer and a UI designer, and I gave it a single file and was able to build an entire full-stack application for me. If you heard a lot about sub-agents but do not know where to begin, you definitely want to check out that video. Alright, till next time, see ya.